was it a good race? Was it a good race? People were like, this is the best race Formula E has ever produced. And some people were like, that is one of the worst races that Formula E has ever produced. And it's a bit like Marmite. And I really, really, really want you guys listening, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on your Spotify app listening to us, I want you to get involved. I want you to try and get involved. Message us. We want to know your opinion on the Portland E-Prix race because it has divided so many chat rooms since the race, since the checkered flag fell. And I know we all have slightly different opinions, but I think on it from ourselves, but we kind of want to keep it as balanced as possible. So I'm going to throw to Ed first, right? So let's break it down a little bit in terms of this pack racing mentality, right? What did you think of the pack racing? Because obviously we've seen it before in Berlin and so forth. And that was the first kind of extreme that we saw because the track was wide. Obviously, Portland was so wide that we were seeing 4 or 5 cars wide. And in terms of the people leading the race and not wanting to lead the race, we saw it have such a dramatic effect in Portland. For you, was it a good race? Did you think this was a really good race?
I think I had a fun time with the spectacle, but I don't think that's the same as it being a good race, if I'm being honest. And it's sort of been a running theme since, I think, Brazil, actually, in Sao Paulo, where we had another energy-sensitive race that, funnily enough, Nick Cassidy very nearly won. And that, to me, felt like another one where nobody wanted to lead, even though it was still quite a wide. It had a lot of straights, that track. It was quite wide, but it wasn't quite to the same extent as Portland. And there were a couple of moments where they were going 5 wide, almost 7 wide at some points. And it did seem a little bit kind of, and I think the quote that stays in my mind is Sergio Sede Camara after the race said, if you like overtake 5 guys in one straight, to me, that's not proper racing because they all just backed off and you just kept your foot down and there was no skill needed there. So, yeah, I suppose it's an interesting debate in terms of what's caused this type of racing. Is there any kind of solution before the end of the season? What's too much? Is it just sort of everything is free for all? Everyone doesn't want to be in the lead, and then the last 10 laps are everyone suddenly speeds up and goes 6 or 7 seconds faster. And does that make the product look ridiculous? Does winning still mean something? I think these are all really important questions. I realize I just answer your question with loads and loads of questions, which is not ideal. But
Yeah, but that's
anyway.
what we're going to get stuck into, right? Because basically lots of sub questions come up, right, within both sides of the argument of was it not a good race or was it a good race? And that's what we're going to sort of go into. And that's why I really, really want people to get involved in the comment section and tell us what you thought and why. And then listening to what we're going to say and what we discuss. And Faye, do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Because I think the conversation for this race is huge in terms of where we could go and why people have their views on it. Pico, I know what your views are, and I'll let you explain your views. But I want to ask you a question before we start, because I know you are not the biggest fan. You kind of hinted that you preferred the Jakarta race to this race. And I want to ask you about those last 10 laps, though, right? Because those last 10 laps when the pace, when Ed said, was picked up, would you consider that part of the race being good? Or would you consider that it didn't matter because of what happened before?
I mean, the last 10 laps were fine, but I'll be honest, I was still quite miffed about the first 21, 22 laps or so. It was the pace was just absolutely ridiculous. You aren't racing if you're in the lead and you want to let like 3 or 4 cars past you because it's better for the race. That's not racing. That's a Sunday cruise. That's genuinely my opinion on it. If the battle was between 1st and 20th, and the battle was for 4th for the first 20 laps. That's genuinely what it was.
What's interesting, so those first 20 laps, now I had the same kind of feeling at this point to you, right? In terms of, I know we had 2 safety car periods, but that first sort of like 20 laps before, they went fast for those last 10 laps in that 32 lap race, it wasn't racing because For me, racing, you want to be at the front, right? And if we're having a series, Ed, and I'll throw to this you next, we've got a product where drivers openly admitting, I don't want to be in the lead of the race, right? And slowing down on the straight. We saw it at Monaco.
Yeah.
We've seen it everywhere. Berlin. Most tracks, they've slowed down at an overtaking point, and then drivers don't want to overtake. We get to the stage where that's why they're 4 or 5 wide going into a corner potentially. They don't want to take the lead. And so we're in this holding pattern. And the holding pattern takes so long, right? To get going. But then at the same time, Ed, to go to the other side of the argument, watching it was a bit crazy because it was like a lap one start, like a race start every time they got to the first corner, and you didn't know who was going to be in the lead, you didn't know who was going to be where, and every lap the order kept changing. And from an excited point of view, right, you didn't know what was going on, right, and that was the thrill part of it. So those people who say it was a good race, they're probably going to that thrill side of things where they're like, actually, I didn't know what was going to happen next. I didn't know what was, where we were going to be, who's going to be in the lead, how many places had dropped back. It was like a horse race. It was like a Grand National where some guys at the front, and then next, after a couple of hurdles, he's right there at the back, and then he's coming back through again. It had that kind of crazy thrill, which people like that thrill. That's why horse racing has such a big attraction. Is because it's got that thrill of, everyone's close together, and there's things that change slightly in each lap that changes the order.
Yeah, but I think especially in Portland, but we also saw it to a bit of an extent in Berlin and Sao Paulo, there was an artifice to it, right? And I think that's the thing that you and Pico, especially, and I think there are others in the AFE panic that definitely agree with you, that really take issue with the fact that it's a result of the way the cars are set up. They're very high drag, so you can save so much energy from staying behind the car in front of you. And as a result, leading just isn't beneficial. Although saying that, I think Cassidy did lead quite a large chunk of the race, but there was a few safety cars involved and sort of reasons behind that as well. And Cassidy did start down in 10th and then slowly worked his way up the order. It's interesting because there was all the American fans were very, very into it, especially in Portland on site. The atmosphere sounded like it was very good from the people that we've talked to that were there. And it's people like, I don't want to say old grouchy people, but people like like us that seem to be a bit more skeptical about it. And I suppose my hang up with it is more on the safety side in terms of, it's not really sustainable or healthy to have a race where people are running 5 wide, like constantly every lap, it feels like, because the consequence is people get pushed out. And we had a few big near misses. I think Nico Muller being the most obvious one that comes to mind, where his front wing got damaged because he just ran to back of someone at turn 1. And then it went under the car and he just went straight on and caused a big accident, 27G accident, and then a safety car where he just went right onto the racing line. And I feel like it's a sort of incident that could happen again with this style of racing if we go back to Portland, say, next year. I think Rome and London are probably going to be less energy sensitive, to put it that way. But I do think it's an issue with the formula that we have at the moment. And we kind of got lucky so far that we haven't had a massive accident with these energy sensitive races. But there was a couple of times where people lost front wings and it's rubbed against the front tires, and we've had big near misses. Tictum and Gunfer in Monaco is another one that comes to mind to me. So I think what you're saying is really important about the show, but also safety, I think, is really important as well, and as well as sporting integrity.
We'll delve into the safety side of it in a moment. So going back, I kind of want to go back to that horse racing kind of analogy, because, and throw this to you, Pico, we don't see it in normal racing, right? We don't, when we watch a motorsport event, right? And we've been watching motorsport events for decades now, because we're getting older. But, when you watch a horse race, it's that one lap around that course, right? And you know what to expect, right? That kind of to and fro is expected, right? Whereas it's not expected in a motorsport event, which makes it more unique in terms of Formula E being able to have these chopping changes. And I suppose maybe for people, who are criticizing that race, it's because it's not the norm for them. They don't expect to turn on a race and see people not want to be in the lead. So for them, they're like, what am I watching?
Yeah, I don't think there's any other motor racing series in the world where you don't want to lead the race, and that's something that I'm not sure whether it's just because I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to motor racing.
The only thing, just to
But
add in,
that's
sorry to
something
interrupt, really sorry to interrupt. I want to throw MotoGP because I know you're a massive MotoGP
I
fan.
was about to mention
I
this.
know
Yeah,
you,
Moto 3.
but not even
Yeah,
Moto 3, right? I want to even go MotoGP, right? Forget Moto 3 because I know Moto 3 is very packed as well, but I want to go Mugello, right? Now
this is
Mugello has,
exactly what I was going to say. I was
yeah,
going to say
Mugello has that
Mugello
long
Moto
straight.
3. Yeah,
Even in MotoGP, I remember Mark Marquez and people behind there waiting for that last lap. So
yeah,
we
Marquez
can
Lorenzo
see it.
2016.
Yeah, we can see it in other motorsports. That's what I wanted to say. So maybe for some people, we do kind of see at that point, you don't want to lead until those last 2 or 3 laps. But carry on with your point.
Yeah, but even then in things like Moto 3, which is, if you haven't watched Moto 3, it's basically you get every single race in and around anything from about 3 to 12 bikes fighting for the lead race in race out, which sounds quite familiar. But even then in Moto 3, you still want to, if you're leading the race, that's still a good thing. Whereas in Formula E, if you're leading the race, that's a very bad thing, and that's the problem, because even though it's more like a cycling peloton, and that's what there's been a lot of these comparisons, because you're basically punching that hole in the air and everything, and it means that all the other riders are saving energy. They're not going as quick, but they can still be in touch, and that's what we're getting in Formula E. Whereas in something like Moto 3 or in MotoGP or anything like that, even if you sit behind someone, that's fine. You might get a hotter engine. That's about it. It's being in front or being behind. It doesn't really matter in motorcycle racing, unless you're in Moto 3 and it's the last corner of the last lap of Mugello. That's the only ever time that you need to be sort of worried, because I don't go to Brno anymore. But yeah, it's this kind of not wanting to lead and we will go into it in a bit about how dangerous it is, because I'm fairly certain we were close to some accidents in that race. But one thing that made me think about this during the races is because I watch YouTube. I've seen plenty of F1 YouTubers, and they've done videos where it's like, oh, 10th place wins. So you have to finish 10th at the end of the 3-lap race, and that's the winner. And that's what in Formula E is at the moment. It is literally, they could have awarded 10th place 25 points, and you would have the same style of racing for the entire race, because it's just ridiculous like that at the moment, in my honest, humble opinion.